The nose starts to become an entity of its own. It's been a hot second since I read from the mini classics that I own. I own the big boxes, both the modern one and the Little Black Classics. The Little Black Classics has 80 and I think there are 45 or 50 in the modern ones. I got them in 2020 and in the first 2 years I read quite a lot from them, but I haven't picked anything from those boxes in over a year. And I thought today would be a great opportunity to get to know a few new authors. Today I'm going through the boxes, finding authors that I've not read from before, and we're going to discover some classic literature authors together. My goal is to do 4 or 5 today, kind of depends on my energy levels for the day, and also maybe if one short story or novella as an audiobook, so I can keep on going while I do some chores in the home. It is a heat wave today and tomorrow, so I took those days off from the bookshop because I don't do really well with heat, so I just take the day off as a precaution. Kind of force myself to sit down and rest a little bit. I thought I could do a daily reading vlog. I'm starting my day downstairs, but I'm probably going upstairs because I have a mobile air conditioning upstairs, which is currently used by Boy, who's working this morning and most of the afternoon, but then I'm going to take the air conditioning. Nora is eating the flowers that Boy got to celebrate the fact that he got his pre-master, which I'm so proud of him. He's going to do his masters in the future, but he has his pre-master in law. So those are some celebratory flowers that he got from my parents that are now being eaten by Nora, which I need to stop her because I don't know if they're safe for cats. Always does the trick. I have finished the first mini classic, which is New York City in 1979 by Kathy Ecker. This is one big dumpster fire of experimental writing, and maybe in the best way possible, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, how to review experimental writing, I find it so hard. There's an art to it, of course, but it's also, did I get along with it? Did I like it? And parts I found very readable and very rhythmic, which I really look for in experimental writing. And parts I found so graphic and so not of this time, which of course I didn't want to expect from this at all. It's not an expectation you can have, that maybe the graphicness was a bit too much, but also Kathy Ecker isn't looking for your approval in her writing. This book is about capitalism. It's about capitalism and sex and how they go together, sexuality, abuse, sexual abuse. Those things are sometimes graphic, sometimes not so graphic, but it's all interwoven with US society and especially in New York during the time when she wrote this, which I'm assuming, oh, she published it in 1981, so she published it 2 years later as when these stories or snippets are taking place. It opens with a statement and then it has a few photographs as well, which I quite enjoyed. It's a conversation that is written like this, just dialogue, and it says the horse in a jail at night, and it really sets the tone of what we kind of know of New York in the 1970s or what we really associate it with. And it's an incredibly chaotic, unsafe place, like New York just was a dumpster fire, and it really reflects in this mini classic. I am interested in Kathy Ecker as an author. Do I think the writing was absolutely masterful? Not really. I did enjoy the lack of care on how the work will be perceived by the reader, and the experimental tone of this book I really enjoyed, but I could give it like a 2-star and a 4-star, so I don't think I can really rate it. It was just an experience and it did intrigue me, but I didn't necessarily love it. So that's the first one down, but before we get into the next one, let's learn a little bit about Kathy Ecker. She was an American novelist whose writing style and subject matter reflect the so-called punk sensibility that emerged in the 1970s. Ecker's novel combined the autobiographical and the fictional, and she deliberately plagiarized from other writers to dismantle concepts of identity and authority. She often centered explicit violence and sexuality in her writing, as she does in these short works. second one I picked is also from the modern classics, and that is number 45, and this is The Haunted Boy by Carson McCullers. I think I tried a novel by Carson McCullers once and didn't really get along with it. These are short stories that says that they are moving stories portraying love, sorrow, and our search for happiness and understanding, and they're all gothic. Yeah, so let's read them. I read the first short story in the Carson McCullers collection, and that is called The Haunted Boy, and this surprised me. This was really good. The writing is very simplistic, but the story and the content matter is really strong, which very much feels like the opposite of the other mini classic I just read. This short story is called The Haunted Boy. We meet two boys who spend an afternoon together. They're friends. One boy tells the other that his mother suffers from mental illness, but in a world where mental illness is not talked about, it's very taboo. The word crazy is mentioned, and we see the boy's experience and trauma towards and with his mother's mental illness, and with the things that she has done and with the things that she is now. We see some glimpses of his relationship with his father and how two men deal with an emotionally heavy situation. I found this very clever, very intelligent, and very real. Somehow. I think it's gothic as well because it says The Haunted Boy, but it has nothing to do with ghosts, more with an emotional haunting of a traumatic event. And I thought that was quite strong, so I'm excited. I think I'm gonna give it 5 stars, this story, because it was really good. I didn't love the writing, but you didn't need to love the writing for this story. And then I have 2 more short stories to read. But first, I'm going to do my nails because they're looking a little bit bare. While I was doing my nails, I was listening to one of the mini black classics, which is The Nose by Nikolai Gogol. I want to say, yeah. I've never read from this author, I think. Okay, that was a very short clip because my memory card was full, and now upstairs I just turned the air conditioning off, but it's on when I'm reading, and I finished this one. This is number 46, and this is The Nose and another short story called The Garage. Did I tell you what it is about in a previous clip? I don't know. The Nose is about a nose. So we meet a man who wakes up without his nose, and we also follow his barber who finds his nose and immediately recognizes his nose because of course he is his barber, so he sees his nose a lot. The nose starts to become an entity of its own. Our main character, who has lost his nose, visits different places like the newspaper, the police, to try and find his nose. It's just very funny. I'm sure it's meant to be more, but I guess I'm not really understanding maybe the political climate of the time and the place when this was written. It was written in the early 19th century in Russia. It's definitely a little bit Kafka-esque. I haven't read the Metamorphosis yet, but I guess that would be quite similar. I found it delightful. I found it funny and strange, and the main character is a man of high rank, or he fancies himself a man of high rank, and he finds that very important. The fact that he has now lost his nose, which is very strange to everyone, and no institution of course will really help him, I think puts him in a unique position, and it was interesting to read it like that. The second story I DNF'd because I was really bored with it. It's a similar main character in the military and just kind of went over my head, and I felt like I don't want to push through and spend my time reading a short story I just don't like. I found The Nose amusing, but I don't have any inclination to read more by Nikolai Gogol. If I just rate The Nose, I would give it 4 stars. If I rate this whole collection, it was also DNF, so I guess it will be 3 stars. I have 2 stories left of this one, so I'll read that first, and I want to read another of the black classics. It's between, for me, 2 authors I don't know yet, French, Japanese. This is The Atheist Mass. Just read it yourself. I'm not gonna butcher it. So this is translated from French. Yes. Or The Life of a Stupid Man by this Japanese author, which also translated. This is early 20th century and this is early 19th century. So I don't really know. This is supposed to be 2 devastating stories of faith and sacrifice from Balzac's panorama of 19th century French life. Sounds interesting. Not sure I'm really in a mood for drama. Japan's modernist master explores family, art, and the fear of madness in exquisite autobiographical pieces and a short story. soon? I don't know. I will decide after I finish. I also had some lunch. I think it's now 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Turn my air conditioning back on. Nikolai Gogol was a Ukrainian-born Russian writer. He wrote in Russian, but many of his works were influenced by the fact that he was born in the Ukraine in 1809 and died in 1852. Some critics say that he was the first Russian realist, and his biting satire, comic realism, and description of Russian provincials and petty bureaucrats influenced later writers in Russian literature like Leo Tolstoy, Ivan Turgenev, and especially Dostoevsky. Hi, it is later in the afternoon. It is almost 5 o'clock. I should probably start making dinner because we sometimes like to eat a little bit earlier when it's warm. Sometimes we eat at 8 o'clock and then I just feel still so bloated when I go to bed. And I think I will make a pasta salmon salad, which should be nice. But the Russians are boring me to death today. It's not the first time. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship, me and Russian literature. But I decided to listen to The Steel Flea by Nikolai Leskov. It is part of a bigger collection that I saw online that's called Fairy Tales for Adults. That spoke to me right away, so I thought, okay, I'll give this a go. It is written as a folktale, and we follow both Russian and English men, craftsmen mainly, and one of them makes a steel flea. The Russians want the flea to be remade, and if you turn it on, you have to like turn it on only in a specific way that only one person can do. It's very nationalistic, that Russian is much better than England. That is like the moral of the story, something like that. It's very strange. I'm halfway through and I'm DNFing this because it's giving me nothing. I'm so bored. I get that it's about a special object and that it is about nationalism, not like in a critical way, I think. It's giving me nothing. I find it very boring. I mean, I'm still curious to learn about the author though, so let's do that and then grab our next read. Nikolai Leskov was born in 1831 in the village of Korokovo in Russia. He began his writing career as a journalist in Kiev and later lived in St. Petersburg. He published a lot of short stories and novella, including a play on Lady Macbeth, The Sealed Angel, The Enchanted Wanderer, and Lefty, which is another title for the short story that I read. He died in 1895. So I hope the French can give me some drama. Honoré de Balzac was a French writer, was born in 1799 and died in Paris in 1850. He had a lot of financial trouble early in his life and eventually became known for something we translate to the human comedy. In total, he wrote 90 novels and novellas, which is insane. He sought to produce a comprehensive picture of contemporary society, representing all varieties of human nature. It's the next day and I'm not gonna lie, the heat wave is getting to me. I mean, look at my hair. I have straight hair, but this is what humidity does to my hair. I feel like the problematic scene with Monica in France. Ignore the hair, ignore the sweaty face, ignore the fact that I'm wearing the same t-shirt. I'm really glad the heat wave is supposed to be over tomorrow. Right, I finished late last night. I finished the last story of The Haunted Boy. Not very late last night, by the way. This was late last night. I really enjoyed this collection. It's like a 5-star. The last story is about a man whose wife is home with their children and he notices that his wife starts to drink more. He comes home to a potentially dangerous situation and he starts to wonder what he needs to do. He also feels a lot of shame towards his wife's drinking and he is afraid that his colleagues and people around him will find out. But he is also incredibly attached to their children. A very involved father. I don't really know what he does at the end of this story. It's very vague, I think on purpose. But I enjoyed this way more than I have enjoyed this author before. When I tried like a few pages of a novel and I was like, this is not for me. I will give Carson McCullers ago in novel form. Carson McCullers was an American writer born in 1917. She died in 1968. Her novels are described as stories that depict the inner lives of lonely people. Her novels and stories demonstrate a Southern Gothic embrace of the eccentric and combine examination of reflections between people, reflections on sub-subjects as inherent incompatibility of the lover and the beloved, and the profound sense of the human longing to connect with others. She felt her characters powerfully. One stated that I live with the people I create. I decided to read the French short stories. Late last night I finished the third story. It's definitely very challenging. It's very difficult writing. You have to be a very active participant as the reader. But the first story was about a friendship and a patronage between two men. And it's about religion and atheism, but mostly about kindness. I don't really know what else to tell you about this story. It was interesting, intriguing, very philosophical. I don't really know if I got anything from it looking at religion, but versus atheism. That's also not, I think, the goal of the book, but because it says the atheist mass, which of course is a contradiction in itself. I did find it interesting because we meet a doctor who is at mass, but he is supposed to be an atheist. Our main character meets him at mass, I don't know, and asks him what he's doing there, and then he tells a story of him and his patron. People helping each other helps everyone grow, and that was, I think, a beautiful story. The second story was about a woman, about a widow, and she tries to navigate her way in the options that she has, but it didn't really grip me as much. I feel like with these collections, at least the ones I've read now, like the good one is first, and then they think, okay, I have a few pages left, how to fill the rest of this mini classic, and then they add something that's not strong. Although it's not the case with Carson McCullers, but I kind of feel like it is with I'm not even going to try to attempt to say a French name because I know it will be horrendous and insulting if I try to. But I am interested in this author because I did, even though it was challenging, I really enjoyed the prose. That ends this challenge with having read 5 mini classics, which I think is great. The Steel Flea was definitely my least favorite. I think Kathy Ecker and Nicolas Gogol were on kind of the same level for me. And then my two favorites were the first French short story, but my ultimate favorite were the short stories by Carson McCullers. If I've learned anything from this vlog is that I should probably get myself an edition of a novel by Carson McCullers. Please leave me a recommendation in a comment down below if they have written a novel that you think I would really enjoy. But also, if you like read them separately, if you don't have the box, then I would recommend number 45. And if you like more philosophical, maybe more difficult writing, I would recommend number 41 of the Black collection. For now, I'm going to edit this vlog, look up some interesting information or little bios of all these authors, because this vlog is called Getting to Know New Authors. And of course, it's fun to get to know their works. Also, always really enjoy getting to know a little bit about the authors, because I think putting text in their context is, I don't know if it's important. I mean, you don't have to do it, but for me as a reader, I get a lot out of it to know in what kind of world the author moved and lived and what kind of contemporaries they had and influences of other works they had, which is one of the reasons I like classics, because I also really just like literary fiction or romance. I've been really loving romance these last years, but it's so interesting to see where those authors come from, because I feel like most authors, no matter kind of what genre they write, they always have this basis of classic literature in their mind before they start writing themselves. It's as simple as seeing someone like Julia Quinn be incredibly inspired by Jane Austen. To me, it adds so much more having read Jane Austen's book to read historical romance now. That's why I started reading classic literature, because I had that interest. But to me, I feel like it opens a world I will never know otherwise. And that is why I love classic literature and love doing little challenges like this, and I would highly recommend that you do the same. Of course, if you don't have these boxes, I'm not telling you to spend a lot of money, but like these shorts, you can get these for, I think in the UK they're £1 each, and I think in the Netherlands you will pay about €3 each. Some have ebook versions as well. Go exploring is the conclusion of this vlog. I also want to give a little shout out to Victoria from What Victoria Read. She made such an incredibly fun video opening mystery boxes, and she did send me a message that is why she ordered a mystery box for me, and she uploaded the video and it was so much fun. I also looked at the other Etsy stores, but unfortunately the one that I wanted to get doesn't ship to the Netherlands. But I think especially if you live in the UK and if you love the idea of mystery boxes, I would highly recommend watching her video and getting some recommendations, because I could just see how exciting and happy she was to have treated herself to so many mystery boxes from small businesses, and she is inspiring me to maybe do something similar. I'm not gonna like recreate her video, I'm not gonna steal her video idea, but just get some mystery boxes and give myself a really wonderful day. Thank you so much, Victoria, for adding Milena's Bookshop to your video. There are a lot of new people who have now found Milena's Bookshop on Etsy because of you. That is really wonderful, and thank you so much. I would recommend Victoria's channel in general if you don't know her yet. I will tag her in the description down below, so definitely go have a look around. For now, thank you so much for watching this vlog. I hope you had a wonderful time. I hope you got to know some new authors together with me. For now, I hope that you have a lovely day or evening, and I hope to see you in another video. Doei!